Kia ora tātou, everyone. So I was thinking this morning, what would be really important to say, given the lineup of speakers. And I saw that my son-in-law, Hirani, was going to be speaking. And so I thought, well, that cuts out my first point. Because my first point is this. Honour your whakapapa. That's actually it. Just honour your whakapapa. Yeah. Because do you know, you are the descendants of geniuses. And we've been so brainwashed into thinking that we were primitive savages who were so fortunate to be colonised by those who my father called pisspot Pākehā, and I'll tell you the reason he used to say that we have, we have been trained not to value and to honour thousands and thousands of years of knowledge and wisdom that have been passed down to us. Now, just the pisspot Pākehā thing, Chris, this is for you. So I was asked, firstly I forgot, sorry. Congratulations, Ngāpuhi, and to the Taitokero. My goodness, a sea change is happening, and I believe it has been led by the North, and so it should be led by the North. The first tribe to be so heavily impacted by the colonisers. The devastation. I remember getting the book, someone sent it to me, it was called Ngāpuhi Speaks. Do you know, I couldn't read the blinking thing, I was crying too much. I thought, holy smoke. And the many times I came up here and was so mean to the Taitokero elders because I didn't feel they were being receptive enough to our radical ideas, not knowing that actually we were talking to deeply, deeply radical people. They just had a different way of expressing it. So Ngāpuhi, after a calamitous history with our colonisers, a devastating and traumatic experience, I believe there's a reason why you are one of the last iwi to be settling your claim. Because I believe that what you do is how all claims should have been settled. So I'm really grateful that you have held on to your mantra that we never ceded sovereignty. Because that's the key for us in the next 50 years. We never ceded sovereignty, in which case the question that we must now answer is, how do we then take it back and move our sovereignty where it is? Now I'm saying that because anything is possible. I learned that from Eva Rivkart. I learned that from our old people. Do you know, Eva was an old woman when she started the Raglan protest. An old woman, but my goodness, look what happened. Against all the odds, she took on the Raglan City Council. She took on Waikato Tainu, her own tribe refused to support her. And yet, what happened? She got that land back. You know, anything is possible. So for us, our vision in 2020 has to be sovereignty. There's only one vision. Of course, we're going to have transitional phases. As Willie Te Aho said, yes, we'll take $200 million for whenua development or water, this and that. We will take transitional, but mark my words, they must only be transitional. So I come back to my first point, which is, if you honour your whakapapa, then you know that your ancestors have the answers. Now, the pisspot Pākehā thing comes about because someone asked me at the 2/8 Māori Battalion opening, they said, gosh, Donna, you're still here. You know, you must be an old woman by now. Yes, well, you know, I'm an old woman. I'm 71. But why I became an activist early was I was brought up with this idea that my father told me. He says, well, never be afraid of Pākehās because do you know their ancestors used to throw their effluent out of their bedroom into the street, out of the pisspot into the street. Why would you do that? Then to the extent that it became a river of effluent where they walked with their long skirts and everything. And then they diverted that channel of effluent into their rivers where they caught their fish. Now, how stupid can you be is to put your effluent into the river where you drink? I mean, how dumb is that? And you know, our ancestors, the 2/8 Battalion, always had their latrines far away from their eating. We have our stricture, the separation between your toiletries and your eating. It just makes common sense. So immediately, Chris, I just thought, God damn, how stupid must they be? So I grew up not intimidated by Pākehā and thinking, if you can't get the basic thing of not pissing and shitting where you're going to eat, then I'm not going to listen to you. Exactly. Right. And so to get to climate change, this is just an example. Chris, your people, your way of thinking has brought us to the point of extinction. Like literally. Literally. We're at a point now where we're having fires in Australia, around the Amazon, around Europe, even here in New Zealand. We've got rising tides. We've got the fisheries have moved south. For all our traditional mātauranga, like for Ngai Tahu, all of their traditional fisheries have moved south because it's warmed. You already have urupa in Kahungunu and in Aotearoa, where the rising rivers and seas meant that our urupa have now moved into the waters, and that is a calamity. All our marae who are on riverbeds, rivers and on the ocean are at risk. You've got in the north a crisis. I went to get fish and chips the other day in Kaikohe, and was it Percy? He said to me, I've got a notice from the council. He raced to the back and brought it, telling him that by June, if there's not enough water, he will have to close his fish and chip shop, his business, his family's livelihood, because there's not enough water. And these fools can't connect the loss of water, the change in our weather, to the fact that our planet is warming at a superhuman rate. It's not warming like it did in prehistoric years. It's warming accelerated. And all the scientists in the world, except for a few who are in the pay of the oil companies, are really, they're saying we have so much time. We have till 2030, we have till 2050, and we must get on with it. So I wasn't actually going to talk to you about the urgency of climate change, because I think as Māori, I have found we're on a different planet, because we feel it, we see it. Our maramataka is changing as the weather is changing. And if you've been operating according to the maramataka and collective wisdom and the cycles of moon and the way the rivers flow and the way the winds shift for 1,000 years, and that's been passed down to you, and it all changes, in your family knows something is up. And as Hirini said on his journey through, he has taken samples of the waters, photographs of the devastation that's happened to our country. So that's not my purpose. You know what's happening, so I don't want to go there. But what I want to tell you is, in order to shift a colonial paradigm into our whakapapa paradigm, will be extremely hard. And if there's one lesson that I'm going to leave you from 50 years as an activist, it is that we need several things. One of them, we need unity. That proverb, one twig, you can break it. 1,000 twigs bundled together, you can't. And we need to bundle ourselves together. We are too many twigs, alone, standing alone. And the treaty settlement process has, it really has solidified that tendency for us to work in isolation. And how we overcome that is an issue that we all have to think about. I'm telling you, I do not have the answers. But what I have is the experiences of 50 years as an activist, of believing at certain points in my history where we had made significant gains, only to find 10 and 20 years later that what victories we thought we had won were actually losses. They were magician's tricks, you know, when they play a card game and you see something and you think you see something, but in actual fact it's not. We have been deluded and tricked into a lot of different things along the way. So what I want you to say is, your generation, you young people, have to be 20 times sharper than mine. We are the product, I am the product of a colonial process where our parents and grandparents were beaten for speaking Aotearoa, where we had a Tohunga Suppression Act to basically demean and insult our traditional knowledge. We had, you know, our people grew up in poverty because our lands and waters and fisheries were taken from us. And so, you know, we must learn, never criticize our old people. They gave us the one gift that we needed to do what we need to do for our future generations. They made sure we survived. That's all they had to do, and they did it. Sure, they made a lot of mistakes along the way, but we cannot judge them because we did not undergo the brutality of their experiences. We've actually had it quite soft. You know, I look at, we really have, you know, and often it's, you don't have the fire in your belly because in actual fact, either one of two things, you've had a softer life and it hasn't raged you enough, or two, you've been so brutalised that you actually just wrung out. You're just getting from day to day, either one of those. Anyway, so my message is simply that we have to replace sovereignty. It's not going to be easy, but unless we have that as a vision, and we collectively have that as a vision, I'm afraid we're going to be back here in 50 years' time having the same old sorry conversation with one another. We have to move out of victimhood. Now, I love Pania Newton. When I first met her in 2018, I thought, oh my goodness, what a honeypop. Such a beautiful, gentle soul. She spoke so quietly, I had to really struggle to hear what she was saying. But do you know, she's every child. She is actually the norm. It's not that we should be celebrating her. We need to be looking at everyone else and saying, that's the norm. Being silent, getting straight A's, getting your law degree, you know, getting your patch. That's not the norm. This is the new norm. So it's not about her, we're looking up. It's about everyone stepping up. Now look, I've spoken at conferences and I went through a period of maybe 10, 15 years where I stopped doing them. Because honestly, it's a waste of time. Half of you are here to be entertained, or it's too hot out there, or you think, oh, they might say something interesting, or it might be, you know, whatever. You people are a waste of time. John Rangaho used to say to me, he said, always listen intently when a rangatira speaks, because every time they speak, they die a little. They're hastening their death. So they are giving you the gift of life. The least you can do is give them the gift of your ears. So I've given the gift of my life to many people, and they've gone away, you know, gotten a PhD, written it up, you know, written a few flash articles, become a lecturer, and that's it, thinking, oh, well, I've done my dash for Māoridom. No. We need to actually develop some measures of sovereignty and then start measuring our own performance against them. Now, the hiko is going to come along in a minute. So what I'm saying is, if you are in this room, and some of you are old and you think, oh, well, you know, I've done my dash, I'm old and I'm no good for nothing. Think of Eva. Think of Finna. God damn, she could hardly walk. And she led that hikoi. In 75, the end of that hikoi, it allowed Maturata. By the way, Ngapuhi, I want to see, or not Muri Whenua, his people. I want to see a statue of Maturata. His greatness has never been acknowledged by the North, let alone by the rest of us. Can we do something about it in 2021? The anniversary of the year that Hana Te Tii Marae and a group of us, about 20 of us, came up here for the first time and walked around that perimeter. And where Hannah did something that really changed the course of my life and changed the course of our nation. She ran alone through all the police, through all of the sailors, to pull down that flag on her own. A frail woman, 7 stone. She ran for it. God damn. And the vision of her doing that inspired me whenever I was terrified or feeling sorry for myself. I'd think of Hannah. And then later on, I'd think of Wira, I'd think of Whina, I'd think of Eva, and all those amazing women. And it's not about us honouring them. We honour them by becoming them. So all of you old people here, I'm trying to look for you. You, Leo. Just remember, if when you think you've done your dash, think of Whina and Eva. It's never too old. And the young people are looking to you. They're looking up to you. And if you just sit there, lolling around watching Netflix, well, that's what they're going to do. So, let's move it. So now, what we're going to do is when the hikoi comes through, we're going to shut this down and go with them. Because let's do that. Let's do that. So when I get the signal, I'm going to just close it up. Oh, I've got ages. Oh, God damn. Okay, so I just want to now talk about an experience that I had in the last year. So, I used to be a child psychologist. I was the first child psychologist. And I worked in South Auckland and I saw things. I saw our children being uplifted. I saw them being taken away from their families because they were truanting, not even mischief. They would be sent to Borstal on the basis of a psychologist report. All the social worker needed to do, didn't even have to go to court in those days. A child psychologist like me just had to sign the report and the child would be uplifted and taken away from that family until they were, I think, 15 or 17. I could not believe it. The second thing I noticed was that young boys whom I could see had that whakapapa genius. You just look at them, they're mischief as hell, and you know that they are going to be, they've got huge intellects. You just know it. And you're looking at them, and those blinking eyes are telling you, you're speaking to an equal. 5 years old, and my God, I'm looking at you, boy, and God damn, you got it. And I'm thinking to myself, can't wait to see you when you're 20. And then when I see them when they're 20, after they've been just pulverized by the system, that genius has just gone. So to do something about it, I noticed that all of the people in those days making these decisions were Pākehā. I was the first one who had the power. And I moved heaven and earth to change it so that you had to go to court to get that power, to take it away from psychologists. All white, all racist, all redneck, really stupid people who were so arrogant towards Māoridom. Have you ever met a Pākehā who's so dumb you can't even be bothered? Well, I worked with them. And that's when I went through my poor me phase. Oh, my sorry ass had to drag myself to work with all my dumb Pākehās. But anyway, we managed to do that. We managed to shut down the social welfare homes. We had an inquiry, I think it was 1978, with Auckland Council on Racism and Discrimination. Now, what I'm going to say here is that what I learned was no change comes about unless it's made at Parliament and with the bureaucracy. So I started a business called Ihi Consultants. Because, ihi, te wehe te mana, whoa. I thought, that's what I need. Give me some ihi, and I'm going to go down there and change those government agencies. We formed a business, me and the only other psychologist in New Zealand at the time, Maria Marero. We went to Wellington. We worked with 33 government agencies. There were 36 at the time. We set up, I think, 27 Māori advisory units. We made a big mistake. But however, we thought there's only a few of us, at least if you've got your own advisory unit with your own budget, and we always did a 5-year budget, then we can leave you and you're in safe hands with a Māori group. So eventually we did that for a few years and we left. We thought, oh, well, they're on their way. Traffic, for example, Margaret Baisley brought us in. She had half a dozen traffic officers. When we left 5 years later, 36% of all traffic officers were Māori. So don't tell me you can't make change quickly. All you need is a vision and the mechanisms to do it. So I happily left the public sector. 1996, I went into Parliament. And I thought, oh, you know, things improve. They went from iPhone 1 to iPhone 5 to iPhone something, you know. Phones went from this big to that big. So you think things just will get better. Then last year when I got asked by Sir Mark and Dame Tariana to take on this role of Māori Climate Commissioner, and believe you me, I didn't know anything about the climate, that there was a crisis. The only reason they got me because I've got something that's very precious and hardly anyone has it. And in this whare, only Hone and I has it. And that is we have a swipe card that gets us into Parliament at any time of the night or day. We can go at 3 in the morning and we can get in. Pānia, you want to take your hikoi through Parliament, 3 in the morning? Hone will let you in. Anyway, you know, it wasn't because, you know, I've got any particular skill in the climate, but that's why, because what they found was when they changed the rules, you know how a lot of our people got rubbish land back, or we've got rubbish land because the colonisers didn't want it. Turns out it's great for carbon farming. So a lot of our people went into carbon farming. A lot of Māori went into it. And a lot of money was going into their pockets when the price of carbon went up, I think, to $21 per tonne. So what does the government do? It allows the emitters, you know, the polluters, the oil producers and the farmers, to buy carbon credits from overseas at the cost of 50 cents. 50 cents from international versus $21 from the Māori down the road. And of course it wiped $600 million off the Māori economy. One swoop, just like that. So in order to prevent that happening, they asked me, and they couldn't get in to see ministers because they knew they were going to be told, you must look after Māori interests. We have a particular relationship with the environment. We want to make sure we are the most vulnerable, that our marae are going to be protected. We're going to be supported to be resilient. Our emergency responses, because we are always the first respondent, aren't we? Think of any crisis, whether it's in Kaikoura or burning, wherever. It is the marae that step forward. Do you know in Kaikoura, the 10 marae, te piringa of Wellington, flew their whole team to Kaikoura to help them run their emergency response. They had it all up. They served 45,000 meals before Civil Defence got a single meal out. That's us. God damn. Why does it upset me? Because Civil Defence, from the top to the bottom, from north to south, ex-Rhodesian Army officers, all of the dregs from the British Army found a home there, hiring one another. Pākeas everywhere. And they cannot connect with our communities. The money, where is that money going? It's going to regional councils who put it over to some Pākehā group. Where's that money going to our marae? God, I got sidetracked because that really annoys me. So what I'm saying is that, you know what? We really are God's gift. We are an ancestral gift to the people of New Zealand, both in our relationship to our environment and the way we look after her and we connect to it and we're part of it, and also because of our manaakitanga, the way we can work together to look after people. It's unprecedented and undervalued and definitely underfunded. So anyway, this is why they got me in. That's my job, is to say, get on with it. So I have spent the last year meeting with ministers and with officials, and I just is what I'll say. I'm blinded by the whiteness. I'm blinded. I'm blinded by the whiteness in the room. Yeah. So when I walk into a room, I'll go into an electricity conference. It's a peak conference of electricity providers. They're all the big shots, all the chairmen and CEOs. Their assets are billions and billions. They run all of the electricity power in the country. I'm the only Māori there. I wasn't invited, but I heard about it. Yeah, well, you know. That's why Mark and Tari asked me, because I will not get in that room. I will not get in that room. So I went to the chairman of the ICC, because they said, we're going to call the police and have you removed. This is a private meeting. So I saw the chairman. I knew he was the chairman. I went up and I held on to him. I said, when the police come, you're coming with me. Your choice. So the point I was making to Lisa, to the Ngāi Tahu representative who was on the independent committee, she was part of this, and said, why are there no Māori in this room? Do you know that Māori, we are the 5th largest electricity generator in this country? A tiny little iwi, tū wharetoa mai kauero. A $10.5 million settlement that they have parlayed into a $250 million asset by utilising their geothermal power. Replacement value of their asset, $500 million. Why weren't they in the room? We have solar panel providers, Māori-owned businesses. Why weren't they in the room? We have iwi, who represent the most vulnerable. Of the 100,000 families they identify who can't pay their power bill, most of them are Māori. Why aren't there iwi, their representatives, in this room? That's what I'm saying. When I say I'm blinded by the whiteness in this room, I really mean, where are we, who have so much to offer, and without whom policy cannot be developed? Thank you, good. I should get on to my final story. Okay, my final story is this. What are we going to do about it? What's happened? I spoke to Harrison. She's now recruitment. Lynn Harrison, who runs a consultancy. She places senior Māori bureaucrats around, all the top deputy chiefs, executives. I said, what's happening? Is it only me? Am I only going into departments where there are no Māori, like environment, conservation, MB, MPI, ururako, education? Is it? She says it's everywhere. There has been a whitening of the public service. Not only that, a hardening of attitude towards Māori, because where once they were open, now they have organised into pushback. So if we want to make a difference, don't think you can do anything on your own. We must unite and push back together. Honestly, on my own, I'm so frustrated. My husband's sick of hearing me talk about it. This has been the unhappiest year of my life, and I've had some pretty bad years. And that's because of my own sense of failure, my inability to get them to listen, to understand that we have answers that they are excluding, that we have people that can really help them do better for New Zealand, not for Pākehā, for Māori, for New Zealand. And so I've come up here. I'm heartened by the fact that Mere Mangu is the chairman of Ngā Puhi. Now someone said to me, oh, she this or that. I just said, God damn, she's better than the last one you put up with. Get over yourselves. And when I saw her, I was sitting in the iwi chairs because I had to do something there. Someone live streamed it to me. And I watched her, and I could see that someone was telling her to sit down, or something happened. And what I loved, I tell you, I could have started singing. She stood her ground. Woo! Yeah. That's it. As far as I'm concerned, whatever other terrible things you do, Mere, you got my vote. Because all you have to do, as Pānia told us, as Hana told us, as Whina taught us, as Eva taught us, as Joe Hawke taught us, is hold your ground. Hold your ground. Okay. Anyway, okay, now, this is what we got to do. Okay, so now you all are part of Donna's army. Everyone in this room who heard the speech. Stop being useless. And I can say that because if you were not useless, you wouldn't bother coming to hear me. Because you'd have the answers. You think, I'm not wasting my time with that old woman. Is this. We need to unite. We need our iwi to get over themselves and start working together. Yes. Calm down. Get more women involved. I'm not saying that you men aren't fabulous because, hey, look at my husband. What can I say? But, the thing is that Māori men have been targeted since they were children, targeted to be uplifted from their parents, targeted to be picked on by the police, targeted by teachers so that they can't learn to read, targeted for being stupid, and when they're mischief and excitable, targeted for being disruptive in class and kicked them out. So Māori men, I'm saying to us wahine, we must put our arms around our men. Yes, they're violent, and yes, they can be a bloody hoha, of course. But unless we work with them and don't allow Pākehā to say it's us and them, no, that's not how the whānau works. As stupid as they may be from time to time, they will only get better if we put our arms around them and help them be better. But the other thing we've got to do is, woman, step up. Step up. Don't sit back there and say, oh, he's the whai kōrero man, that's what matters. Let him do the whai kōrero because they like that bit. What you've got to do is make sure that the economic and cultural future of the tribe, is that 5 minutes? Okay, is at its stake. So unity. Now, by this time next year, I'm hoping that things that we are doing, working with iwi chairs and New Zealand Māori Council, is going to bring us together and we have a different story to tell. But in the meantime, everyone, let's get marching.